Hello and welcome to Training Tuesday. Again, it is, where are we at? It's November 19th, 2019, just a month and a change away from the end of the year. I have been getting some questions lately that remind me that not every one of our customers understands why Ontraport was conceived and designed and built the way it was, and what makes this platform a uniquely great solution for growing your business using the internet. And so I thought that it would be worth taking a minute, for those of you who haven't heard me go on this rant before, to just put it down on video. I don't think we have a video of this, maybe at Ontrapalooza in the past or something, but to just get this down once and for all, to make sure that y'all understand the point of the tools and the thinking behind why we built what we built and why we're going in the direction we're going, and it gives you some ideas, I hope, about how to leverage those tools if you aren't already clear on this. So look, Ontraport is a lot of tools, and it would be reasonable to imagine that this thing is just like a toolkit, right? It's like you could go get a hammer and a saw and a drill, but Ontraport is a toolbox with the hammer and the saw and the drill. And you might think, well, that's kind of convenient to have those three things in one toolkit. Maybe I don't have 3 bills, I don't have 3 logins, I have one support team I can go talk to, and that is why Ontraport is a good idea. That is not why Ontraport is a good idea. It is convenient to have a bunch of tools in one kit, but that is not the reason that it is important. What's important and unique about this platform is the data. So what's important about the data? I want to talk about this in kind of 2 parts. Part 1 is, why is data important in my business? And then part 2 is going to be about, why is Ontraport the best tool to manage and use my data in my business? All right? So part 1, why is data important in my business? Well, first of all, what do I mean by data? Well, I mean information about your customers and your prospects and about how your business is going, right? Why is this important? Well, if we want to grow our businesses, to scale our businesses up, particularly if we want to do that using the internet as a source of new business, leads and customers, and if we want to use the internet as a way to fulfill in some way, we need to appreciate that a few things. One is that we need to create a system to get customers, right? It's not a kind of a willy-nilly, it's not like going fishing. The internet isn't a place to go fishing. The internet is a place to create systems that draw customers in so that you can then scale them, right? Anything other than systemizing lead generation and customer conversion is fundamentally not scalable. That is the game. You need to create systems to get customers if you're going to use the internet. And if you're going to do that, you have to appreciate that it is wildly competitive out there. You're not just competing with everyone who directly competes with you for what you sell. If you are a plumber, or if you're a marketing automation platform or a CRM platform, you're not just competing with other plumbers or CRM platforms. Who you're competing with is every other business in the world who is vying for the attention of your audience. And that's a really competitive problem, right? You've got every human, one of your prospects or prospective customers, has a limited amount of attention, right? Of course it grows. We spend hours and hours looking at screens every day. But the reality, the bottom line is that it's a limited amount of time that we all of us marketers have to try and grab the attention of our prospects. And if I'm willing to pay more than you're willing to pay to grab that attention, then I'm going to be the one that gets that attention, and you're not, right? So it's not just a matter of competing with our direct competitors. It's a matter of competing with every other ad that's getting placed out there in front of your audience, right? So if you're going to compete in a landscape like that, you're going to have to be good, right? It's not for kids. This is prime time. It's real. It's not easy. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you. It's a challenge. So the question then is, how do I succeed at that challenge? What works, right? What fundamentally works to compete and get attention from my audience online? And if we just think about that for a second, we already know the answer to that. What people pay attention to is what's interesting to them, right? Very simple. What people pay attention to is what's interesting to them. And when it comes to solving their problems, what's interesting to them is their problems, right? What you want to sell to them is not interesting, right? What you want to say to them, what you want to do with their attention is completely uninteresting to your prospects unless it is exactly what they're interested in that moment, right? And what they're interested in is a problem or an opportunity and you solving it, right? So if people are interested in solving their problems, then it's your job as a business owner to get in front of them with a message that is specifically, directly, precisely related to how and why you are the best solution for solving their problems, right? What I mean here is that if you're a plumber, it no longer works. It used to work on the internet because it wasn't so competitive 10 years ago because it was all new. But it no longer works to run an ad that says, I'm a plumber. Hire me if you have plumbing needs. It simply doesn't scale. So what does work is to say, I am the best option for you if your toilet is overflowing right now. Because when I have a problem like my toilet overflowing, that's the problem I want to solve. I don't care about trenchless pipe replacement or installation of new bathrooms or any of that stuff. What I want is the guy who's going to get here right now and handle my problem without dragging mud through my house and do it relatively inexpensive, whatever. I need it done, right? That's the guy I want. The guy who is an expert in that particular thing. Did you know that Roto-Rooter actually will come do all sorts of things other than plumb your toilet? They will, but that's not what they're known for. And what they've focused on is this one thing, and that's why they're successful, right? Those of you who don't know who Roto-Rooter is are probably not in the United States, but that's the name that comes up for most of us when we think about overflowing toilets. So you got to be relevant. You got to be speaking specifically and directly to the problems that your customers are facing. Now, that's not to say that you need to only solve one problem. Look, a chiropractor solves all sorts of problems. Migraines, earaches when I was a kid, back problems. Shoot, my wife just had her ear popped and I don't know. All sorts of problems they solve. What you need to do is not say, hey, I'm a chiropractor. You need to say, hey, I solve migraine headaches with chiropractics to the person who has a migraine headache. And then you need to say, hey, I solve lower back pain to the person who has lower back pain. All right? So in order to be able to do that, what you need is to be able to figure out what each individual prospect's problem is, and then to communicate with them about their problem, right? So what is that? How's that done? Well, that's done using data, right? There's a lot of different ways that we might find out what a particular customer's or prospect's problem is, or what's going to be interesting to them in any particular moment, at any particular point in their buying cycle, right? And the tools that you need to do that are, no surprise, the tools that are built into Ontraport. We built this set of tools, this particular set of tools, this drill and this saw and this hammer, specifically because they are the tools that you need to gather the data that allows you to understand what problems your individual customers have. What do I mean? I mean, look, how do you figure out what customers what problems your customers have? You figure it out by looking at what ad they clicked on. You figure it out by looking at what pages they view. You figure it out by looking at what ebook they download. You figure it out by what they've purchased in the past, or what your sales rep says they are interested in, by what they tell you in a form, in a drop-down, by what links they may click in an email. Lots of different possibilities for how you gather that data, and Ontraport is the tool that is best designed to gather and store and manage and then use that data to deliver the relevant experiences, the relevant communications that you need to deliver in order to cut through the clutter of marketing messages that everybody is the victim of today. All right, so that brings us to part two. We got part one, why is data important? It's important because you need it in order to figure out what people are struggling with and separate them and then communicate them with them, right? So why then is Ontraport the best tool for the job? I began to tell you is because it's for a few reasons, right? First of all, Ontraport is the best tool for getting the data. Why? Because there's a lot of data that you can get into Ontraport that is very challenging, if not impossible to get when you have disparate tools all over the place. So what do we get into Ontraport? We get, as I said, we get their visit history, their click history, their purchase history, their ad click history, their any forms they've ever filled out, anything your sales rep ever says about them, any messages they sent you. All this data comes into Ontraport and it's stored in that system for you automatically, so that you can then use that data in the future to turn around and deliver relevant experiences, communications to each individual customer. Okay, so we get more data than any other set of tools. Ontraport is also a better tool for storing the data that you have. There are a lot of ways to store data. And if you have a bunch of different tools, each one of those tools is going to store some data. If you have MailChimp and Shopify and WordPress and Pipedrive, for example, you're going to have different chunks of data in all those various tools. And that turns out, I'm not going to get into specifics right now because we're trying to stay focused, but that turns out, those of you who've been through this know that having data all over there is not, it's just not usable. You can't take data from 6 different tools and put it together in a way that allows you to turn around and use it, right? You might be able to do it like once as an all day long project, export this and export that and merge it all together in Excel and whatever. But in terms of building a scalable system that you're actually going to do in a repeatable way, that kind of project is not It is not doable when you've got data all over the place. You really have to have your data in one platform. Okay, so you have a CRM tool. That's what CRM is fundamentally all about, is storing data so that it can then be used throughout your company, right? Ontraport is a better tool for storing and organizing your data for a couple of reasons. One is it's all in one place. Two is that it's vastly configurable, right? You can create and organize your data, create fields and sections and with permissions and management, and make sure people can see what they should see and other people can't see what they shouldn't see, and create a completely customizable record that makes sense for your business in this platform and organize it in a way that works. Now, there are lots of CRM tools that allow you to create custom fields and dump a bunch of data in there. But one of the things that sets Ontraport apart in terms of storage of data is custom objects. And we won't get into that too deeply today, but what custom objects is the ability to create different types of data and relate them together in a way that makes sense for your business. For example, most CRM systems will have 3 different types of data that you can store. They'll have leads or contacts, they'll have deals or opportunities, and they'll have companies. That's very typical for a CRM system. That's what you'll see in a Salesforce or just about any CRM system out there. But if you have any other type of data, it's basically impossible to store that data in a way that makes any kind of sense unless you're using an enterprise grade tool like Salesforce. Any small business CRM system, including all of our competitors, don't allow you to create new data types and store records in that data set and then relate it to other records. For example, if you're a veterinarian, you want to not put information about individual pets in a contact record because it just gets super messy. What if somebody has 17 pets? Where do you put all the information? How do you use that information? What if you need to talk about pet 16 today, but pet 12 yesterday? It just doesn't make sense to put information about somebody's pets in their contact record. What you need to have is a new type of record for pets, and then an individual record for Fluffy and Fido, and then to relate those back to the owner so that you know who the owner of the pet is. And now you have a system that actually works so that you can take the data that you've got and use it in a way that creates relevant experiences. What do I mean? I mean, it's Fido's birthday and you want to send Fido a discount offer for a fluff and fold or whatever Fido gets. That isn't doable if you've got data all over the place. It's not doable if you've got Fido's data mashed into the owner's record. It's doable in Ontraport because you've got your data organized in a way that makes sense for your business. Okay, so what have we got? We've got the most effective tool for gathering data, the most effective tool for storing data. Now you want to segment the data, right? And how do we do that in Ontraport? Well, we have a very powerful tool called groups. Ontraport is not a tags-based system. Tags-based systems like MailChimp are fundamentally wrong for the management of data. We have articles about this. There are other resources I can point you to. I'm not going to get into the details of this right now, but it is not an appropriate way to manage data for a business. It's a simple way to do it until you get your mind around the actually relatively simple concept of what groups are, but you don't need a bunch of separate lists and one person on some of those lists and not others or whatever. That is messy and not usable. What you need is a database and the ability then to slice and dice that database in different ways. You need the ability to say today, show me everybody who has visited my website in the last 30 days but doesn't own this product and has this particular problem because I want to run a promotion to those people. When you have data in all sorts of different tools, or when you have that person in 4 different lists, that project becomes overwhelmingly challenging to the point that you won't do it. In Ontraport, of course, using groups, that's a 2-second challenge. And so segmentation, being the ability to take your data and slice and dice it and look at chunks of your data, at segments of your list, is the appropriate way to handle the problem, and it's a benefit that you get by having your data in a tool like Ontraport. Of course, there's other ways you segment your data in Ontraport, and that is in automatic ways, right? So groups are manual. If I want to look at a group, I just create a little group, and I save my settings, and I can keep looking at that group later, but that's fundamentally a manual process. We also do this in automated ways using campaigns. Campaigns, triggers, conditions, goals, all are designed to allow you to segment your list as they move through an automated process so that you can then target them with communication that is directly relevant to their problems or where they're at in the customer life cycle with your organization. So we are now figured out that Ontraport is the best tool for gathering the data, for storing the data, for segmenting the data. The last thing is that you need to then use the data to create those relevant, targeted communications and experiences for your customers. Well, it turns out that Ontraport was designed to leverage that data that you have better than any other tool that you could otherwise use. Why? Because we've got the email built in, we've got the SMS built in, we've got the task management system for your sales team built in, we've got the landing pages built in that allow you to take the data in those records and deliver conditional content. We've got the membership functionality built in so that you can show different people different things. And by different things, I mean relevant things, right? So these tools are, again, designed specifically to take the data you've got and deliver those targeted, relevant experiences. There's a side benefit of all this, and that is when you have your data in one system, you're better able to see what's working and what's not working. And that's important when you're competing in the marketplace of attention, as we all are, because how you succeed when you're competing online is not by being brilliant and knowing better, by super fancy copywriting or knowing better about what's going to work to convert. How you succeed is by trying a lot of stuff and failing a lot of times, and watching what works and what doesn't work, and continuing to try until things work, testing and measuring, right? And this set of tools is designed to help you do that, and it gives you an advantage because you've got all this data already in your system, so you can see from ad to page to email to purchase to referral, all the way through what's working and what's not in your business. So it allows you to move faster through this process that we all go through, which is this iterative process of testing and measuring and optimizing every stage of the customer life cycle. So that is why Ontraport was designed and built the way it was. That's why we have these tools instead of other tools. And I think that's how you should be thinking about leveraging these tools. So I know that a lot of our customers are using Ontraport as a glorified email system, or they're using Ontraport as a CRM system, or they're using Ontraport as just a series of 3 or 4 tools that they need and would otherwise buy separately. But I think if you're doing that, look, continue to use it. We're happy to have you. But I think if you're doing that, you're missing the biggest opportunity that using a system like this provides to your business. So I'm glad we had this conversation. I want to have the next step of the conversation, which is to get into the details about, okay, yeah, Landon, I get what you just said, but how do I, like nuts and bolts, how do I actually begin to segment. I don't have the data that I need, or what data do I need to segment my list? How do I actually organize my business to make this happen, right? So I want to talk about that. We're not going to do it today. We're going to do it next week. So next week, same bat time, same bat channel, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday. What we're going to talk about is segmentation, and specifically for that talk, we'll talk about how to get the data that you need to effectively segment your contacts and prospects, and then we'll probably have a third talk after that, probably after Thanksgiving in December sometime, about how to then specifically how to leverage that segmentation data that you've gotten to create those relevant experiences and get better results with your marketing. That ultimately is the goal, because one size fits all messaging does not work anymore. If you're struggling with one size fits all messaging, then this is the path to begin to walk down, is to break your audience apart into segments and to communicate with them more relevantly. Fortunately, you have, if you're watching this, most likely you're an Ontraport customer, and you have the perfect tool set to make that happen. And I just want to make sure that you understand that, why this thing is built the way it is, and that you begin to think about actually moving in that direction. So that's it for today. Let's talk about it in the community if you want to. Otherwise, we'll see you next Tuesday, and we'll talk about how to get data about your customers so that you can segment them appropriately. All right, thanks a lot. Talk next week.